It's no longer news that Janet gave birth to a goat. The question in the air is, why? How? What would she do with the goat? The doctor had discharged them already. They have done everything they could medically, but no one could explain the mystery. They all knew this must be spiritual problems that require spiritual solution. So they were asked to go, even though the doctor gave Janet a choice. She can leave the goat in the hospital for further examination, or she could take the goat home with her. The nurse stood at the doorway, her expression frozen, somewhere between disbelief and fear. Obi didn't respond to anyone. He looked at Janet, seated on the hospital bed, gently cradling the creature in her arms like it were flesh and blood. She was humming a lullaby, and the way she rocked the goat was too tender to mock. "I'm taking my baby home," she said, firm and unshaken. "She's mine." The staff had tried to intervene. Psychiatrists came. Social workers were called. But there was no law that could stop a mother from leaving with her child if she wasn't deemed a danger. And Janet was far from mad. She was calm, focused, possessed with a love that neither shame nor whispers could break. As they walked through the hospital corridor, heads turned, phones came out. Some filmed, others whispered, "That's her, the woman who gave birth to a goat. God have mercy." Obi held Janet's hand, unsure whether he was escorting his wife or escorting madness. A little boy shouted, "Mother of goat," and Obi quickly pulled him aside. Janet hissed but said nothing. The road to Ogboko was long and bumpy, but Janet never let go of the goat, not once. She fed it with a baby bottle during the drive, caressing its head. "I've named her Zikora," she whispered. "It means what I asked for has finally come." Obi blinked. "You named it?" "Huh." The compound gate creaked open, and the moment the car pulled in, neighbors flooded to their windows. Some stepped out openly to watch. There was no need for TV. This was the show of the year. Janet stepped down from the car, holding the goat proudly. Just then, Mama Ades came out laughing at Janet. She said her son's wife was a witch, yet look. I hear it's a punishment from God. Children ran across the yard, imitating goat sounds. Obi was torn. He wanted to hide. He wanted to scream. But mostly, he wanted answers. Was he a father or a laughingstock? That evening, while the clouds rolled low and thick with impending rain, Janet prepared pap and filled a feeding bottle. She sat on the bed and began feeding Zikora. Mama Adaize, arms folded, stood by the door watching in silence. She wanted to laugh again, but something in Janet's stillness unsettled her. It wasn't grief. It wasn't denial. It was certainty. "You're mad," Mama Daisy finally muttered. Janet smiled. "You'll see soon enough." Then, as if mocking the moment, the goat let out a gentle bleat. Soft, almost baby-like. Obi stared at it. Is it just me? Or does that sound human? Nobody answered. Outside thunder rolled, and the countdown had begun. Day 1 of 7. The witch will die, and the goat shall transform into a child. But now that they were home, the days felt longer and darker. Down the hall, Mama Adeze boiled bitter leaf. She wasn't praying. She wasn't chanting either. She was brooding. Her room had become a place of silence, broken only by heavy sighs and the creak of her old wooden bed. Obi entered her room cautiously. "Mama, what exactly happened? Are you not going to talk?" She looked at him with narrowed eyes. "I warned you about that woman. You didn't listen." "That doesn't answer anything," he snapped. "You said she was cursed. Then she got pregnant. And now she gave birth to a goat. And the pastor said a witch is close. So tell me the truth. What did you do?" Mama Adais didn't flinch. "You think I have the power to turn a child into an animal?" "I don't know what to think anymore," he whispered. She said nothing. But when Obi left the room, She opened her trunk box and brought out an old calabash. It was covered in red cloth and tied with black thread. She stared at it, then quickly pushed it back inside. That afternoon, the compound was filled with visitors. Not friends, but curious onlookers. They stood outside the gate in clusters, pretending to chat, but really hoping to catch a glimpse of the child goat. Some saw Janet, walking Zikora around the yard, cradling her like an infant. Others heard her singing lullabies, and every time the goat bleated, people leaned in closer. "It sounds like a baby," one woman whispered. "I swear I saw it blink like a child," said another. Some laughed. Others crossed themselves and walked away. But Mama Daisy watched from the window, growing restless. Her stomach churned. Her hands trembled. At dusk, she began muttering under her breath. This is not how it was meant to be. That night, Janet had another dream. She stood in a white room. All the walls were mirrors, and in every mirror, she saw herself holding a baby girl. The child was laughing, beautiful, alive. But the moment she stepped forward, the mirrors cracked, and the baby turned into Zikora, bleating. Behind her, she heard laughter, familiar laughter. She turned. Her stepmother stood there, dressed in white lace, eyes glowing like coals. "Did you really think you would escape your past?" she whispered. Janet screamed and woke up gasping. Obi sat up beside her. "Another one?" She nodded. It was her again, my stepmother. "Obi, I think she's involved." Obi stared at her. "But she hasn't even visited." "That doesn't mean anything," Janet said, trembling. "I'm starting to believe. They started long before I got pregnant." Outside their window, the wind howled. And deep in her room, Mama Ades couldn't sleep either, because the truth was creeping closer. Day 2 of 7 was complete, and the house was cracking from the inside. The rooster crowed again, but this time it was met with a shrill, unnatural scream from a goat, but not just any goat, from Zikora. Janet shot up from the bed, her heart racing. The cry had sounded less like a bleat and more like a child's wail. She rushed to the woven basket where Zikora slept. The goat lay there, twitching. Her eyes were wide open. Her legs kicked wildly, and foam gathered at the sides of her tiny mouth. "Obi!" Janet screamed. "Something is happening to her." Obi bolted in, still in his wrapper. "What is it?" "She's not breathing right. Look at her, she's shaking." Obi bent down, unsure whether to call a vet or a pastor. Zikora's body convulsed, then stilled. Then, her limbs went stiff. Janet gasped. No, not today. Not on the 3rd day. She clutched the ghost's tiny frame, pressing it to her chest. "You're not dying on me. You're not." Then, without warning, Zikora opened her mouth and let out another sound. But this time, it wasn't a bleat. It was a word. A single broken word. "Ma!" Janet screamed and dropped her. Obi staggered back. The goat curled again, as if nothing had happened. They both stared in stunned silence. "Did you hear that?" Janet asked, eyes wide. I think so. But how?" Obi whispered. Elsewhere in the house, Mama Daz had heard the scream. She stood frozen in her room, staring at the trunk box in the corner. The calabash inside had been vibrating all morning. When she opened it now, smoke curled upward, and a low humming sound echoed from inside. Her hands trembled as she untied the red cloth again. Inside were strands of hair, Janet's hair, rings of cowries, black soap, a dried frog, and in the center, an old photograph of Janet as a teenager. Her eyes scratched out. It had been given to her years ago, by someone she once trusted, Janet's stepmother. A knock came to her door. She jumped, slamming the lid shut. Obi's voice. "Mama, we need to talk." She composed herself. "Come in." He stepped in. Something's happening. We're on the third day. The goat just spoke. Nobody did. Spoke. I don't know how, but I'm losing my mind. Mama Ada said nothing. Her eyes flicked to the trunk box. He followed her gaze. What's in there? Nothing, she said too quickly. Obi crossed the room and opened it. He froze. Mama, what is this? I said leave it, she barked, slamming the lid shut again. But it was too late. Obi had seen enough. Mama, this is juju. You've been doing things. Are you involved? She sank onto the bed, silent. Obi's voice cracked. Tell me the truth. Did you do this to my wife? Did you turn my child into this? Mama Ades clutched her chest, breathing hard. I didn't mean for this to happen, she whispered. I was lied to. Obi's face went pale. By who? She shook her head, but before she could speak further, Janet burst into the room, holding Zikora in her arms. She said, Ma, I'm telling you, she's changing. The prophecy is real. Someone's hiding something, and it's in this house. Then her eyes fell on the trunk. What is that? She asked slowly. Obi tried to shield it. Nothing, don't worry. No, she said. Let me see it. Mama Ades held her hands out. Janet, please. But Janet pushed past and flung the trunk open. She stared. She gasped. And then she dropped to her knees and began to sob. My photo. That's my mother's fabric. That's my hair. Mama, you've been doing witchcraft. Mama Adaz broke. Her chest heaved as she clutched the wall for balance. I didn't do it alone, she wept. I was told you were dangerous, that you were a prostitute, that you did abortions, that you cursed your own womb before marriage. I was trying to protect my son. Who told you all this? Obi asked, stunned. She looked up, defeated. Your stepmother. Silence. Even the wind outside paused. Janet stood slowly. My stepmother? She came to me, Mama Ades whispered. Years ago, before your wedding. She told me you were a devil in disguise, that if I let you into my family, you would destroy everything. She gave me this, said it would keep you in check, that it would make you barren, not kill you. I swear, I didn't know it would go this far. Janet staggered back. She did this to me? Obi grabbed his phone. I'm calling Pastor Elijah. But just as he was dialing, they heard another noise. From Zikora. She was standing now, on 2 legs, not 4, not entirely goat, not yet human. Something in between. Janet screamed again. Obi dropped his phone. And from the windows, the neighbors had begun to gather once more. Some watching in horror, others in awe. The transformation had begun, but the witch had not yet died. Day 3 was not over, and the curse was far from finished. By morning, the whole of Ogboko village was buzzing with only one story. The goat is changing. Janet refused to leave her room. She had locked the door, placed olive oil on the walls, and knelt in prayer beside Zikora all night. The creature, her child, now had human-like fingers on her front legs. Her bleats were softer, whispery, almost like a baby learning to talk. Janet sang lullabies. She rubbed her belly and whispered, Zikora, my child, you're coming back to me. I'll wait for you. Meanwhile, Obi had not slept. He paced the parlor, eyes bloodshot. His phone buzzed with messages. Journalists were now reaching out. One had even offered 500,000 naira for an exclusive interview. Woman gives birth to goat, but the goat is changing. The family had become a spectacle, but the worst was still unfolding behind their walls. Mama Ades had not left her room either. Her confession had left the house in ruins. She barely touched food. Her eyes were hollow. Her hands trembled constantly, and every few hours she would grab her chest as if a stone had been placed inside it. Obi entered quietly. Mama, are you okay? She looked up, tears hanging from her lashes. I can't sleep, she muttered. I see fire. I see hands pulling me under. I hear voices accusing me. You brought this on yourself, Obi said. You let a stranger poison your mind against your own daughter-in-law. I didn't know, she sobbed. I didn't know she was that kind of woman. Obi narrowed his eyes. What kind of woman? Mama Daisy sniffled. Your wife's stepmother. She came in white. She said she was a prophetess. She told me Janet had destroyed men before you, that her womb was a graveyard, that if I allowed her to marry you, we'd all die. And you believed her? She gave me proof, Mama Daisy whispered. A picture of Janet, with a man, some hospital papers. I thought she was telling the truth. I thought I was protecting you. Obi swallowed hard. Where is she now? Mama Daisy shook her head. I don't know, but ever since the prophecy, she's been calling me. At night, whispering. Obi's skin crawled. You gave her access to our lives. And now, something is claiming me, Mama Daisy said, holding her chest. I feel it. I feel death. That afternoon, the village was stunned when a tall, regal woman arrived at the gate of Obi's house. She wore a glowing white lace gown. Her skin gleamed. Her eyes were hidden behind dark sunglasses, and she walked like a queen in mourning. It was Janet's stepmother, the woman in white. She smiled softly as she stepped inside, like someone arriving at a funeral she'd planned. I came to see the child, she said sweetly, her voice like honey soaked in vinegar. Janet stood at the door, unmoved. You have no place here. Don't be rude, her stepmother said, adjusting her veil. I heard about your miracle. I just wanted to lay eyes on her. Janet tightened her grip on the doorframe. You lied about me to Mama Daisy. You fed her poison against me. You gave her charms. You're the reason I've suffered. Her stepmother laughed lightly. I was just trying to protect you. Protect me? Janet shouted. You ruined my life. I trusted you. After my mother died, I let you raise me. And you cursed me in return. The woman stepped forward. What I gave Mama Daisy was never meant to destroy you. It was only meant to delay. Delay. Until the truth could come out. Janet's voice cracked. What truth? Her stepmother leaned in close and whispered, You were never meant to marry Obi. The spirits told me, you are bound to another man. Your destiny was too bright, too pure. It had to be dimmed. Janet's breath caught in her throat. You're the witch, she whispered. Her stepmother smiled and tapped her own chest. Witches confess when they are ready. I'm not done yet. She turned and walked away like a bride, leaving an altar. But as she stepped off the compound, a strange thing happened. A gust of wind blew in violently. The trees around the house trembled, and the baby goat, Zikora, let out a cry so loud it echoed across the compound like a human child wailing. Janet ran to her room. The goat was on her back, eyes glowing, limbs stretching, fingers, toes, a human tongue forming. Janet fell to her knees. God, it's happening. Obi rushed in behind her. Janet, she's changing. That night, Obi sat with Pastor Elijah on the phone. She came here, Pastor, the stepmother. She confessed, but not completely. Pastor Elijah's voice was grave. She will return again. But beware, her mask is not yet off. Obi whispered, Why hasn't anyone died? It's the fourth day. Because the witch still thinks she's winning, the pastor said. But the Lord says, on the fifth day, the chain will break, and on the sixth, the child will rise. Obi's heart pounded. The countdown had taken its toll. The goat was nearly gone, but the curse was still crawling, and day 4 had ended. with evil smiling in white. The 5th day began with thunder, not the kind that followed rain, but the kind that shook rooftops without a drop from the sky. Janet woke up in tears. Zikora had called her mama again in the night, twice, and then, just before dawn, she'd whispered something else, a word that didn't fully form, a sound that tugged at Janet's soul. It was becoming harder to deny the truth. This goat was no longer a goat. She was something in between, becoming. Janet dressed her carefully in a yellow baby shawl and placed her gently on a pillow, then knelt beside her. "Only 2 days left, my child," she whispered, holding the tiny warm creature close. "If the prophecy is true, you'll be whole by the 6th. But if it's a lie, I'll lose you forever." Obi entered quietly, his face pale from another sleepless night. "She called you again," he said. Janet nodded. "But we still don't know who the witch is," he whispered. "The pastor said she'll die before the child transforms. But look at us. We're on the 5th day and everyone's still breathing." Janet looked up. "Then it means she's still hiding." Outside, a crowd had formed at the edge of the compound wall. They weren't there to laugh anymore. They were afraid now. Rumors had spread that a child would emerge from an animal. Some said they saw the creature walking upright in the night. Others claimed they heard it crying like a human. Market women, elders, and even school children stood peering into the compound with a mixture of awe and dread. "Something spiritual is happening in that house," one man whispered. "And someone in that house is a witch," another added. "The village chief sent a messenger. If anything evil happens here, we'll involve the council." Obi read the note and sighed. "We're running out of time." Later that day, Mama Ades grew weaker. She was confined to bed now. Her body shook. Her lips were dry. She hadn't eaten in 2 days. Janet entered the room with a bowl of hot soup and set it beside the bed. "Mama," she said, voice soft. Mama Ades looked up. "Why are you still being kind to me?" "Because you were poisoned," Janet said simply. "But you're not the witch. I know that now." Tears welled in Mama Ades's eyes. "Your stepmother. She came back to me. In the dream. She said my time was up." Janet sat down. "Then help me stop her. Tell me everything she did." Mama Ades's lips trembled. "After your wedding, she brought me to a shrine in Nteje. A native doctor named Okpokoro. She said he'd seal your womb, just in case you tried to tie my son with the child. I was blind with pride, Janet. I thought I was protecting Obi. But I see now, I was a pawn." Janet clenched her fists. "And Zikora, my baby, is the price." Then came the knock. Slow, steady, cold. Obi opened the door, and there she stood. Again, Janet's stepmother. She wore a dark green wrapper this time, and no veil. Her face was bare. No smile, no greetings. She walked into the room like she owned it. "I came for what's mine," she said. Janet stood. "What are you talking about?" "The child," Janet gasped. "You cursed her." The woman's eyes blazed. "She's not yours. She was never meant to be born. I warned the spirits. I blocked your womb. And when it opened again, I gave the final command." Obi stepped forward. You're the witch." She smiled wickedly. "Witch? Number, I am justice. You should have listened to your mother. Janet was never meant for this family." Janet screamed. "You destroyed my life, my womb, my marriage, my child." The woman didn't flinch. "And yet you still breathe. Perhaps that is my only mistake." Then she turned to walk out. But before she reached the door, Pastor Elijah appeared at the gate. He was barefoot, holding a Bible and a jar of anointing oil. "You will go no further," he said, voice booming with authority. Everyone turned. The wind stopped. The trees fell still. The stepmother's body jolted. No, not you. Pastor Elijah stepped in, eyes blazing. You walked into this house 3 days ago with pride. You laid curses. You hid behind manipulation. But the Lord has declared your time is over. The woman laughed. You think you can banish me? Then, her body convulsed. She dropped to her knees. Her eyes rolled back. Her mouth opened in a scream that wasn't human. A dark mist poured from her throat. Janet backed away. Obi fell to his knees. Mama Adaize screamed, She's dying! But Pastor Elijah stepped forward, laid a hand on her head, and prayed in tongues. Father, release this house. Break this covenant. Suddenly, the woman collapsed. Dead. The room was silent. The goat in the back room let out a single, soft cry, and then spoke again. Mama. Everyone turned. The curse had broken. The witch had been revealed. The 5th day had delivered its prophecy. But one question remained. Would Zipporah truly become human? Tomorrow would tell. The 6th day dawned in golden silence. For the first time in nearly a week, no wind howled, no thunder roared. Even the birds outside Obi's compound sang cautiously, as if uncertain what world they had woken into. Janet sat on the floor of her room, Zipporah lying peacefully on her lap. She hadn't moved since dawn. Her breath was slow. Her fur had thinned in patches, and her limbs, now longer, more human than ever, twitched every few minutes, like something inside her was still stretching. She's in between, Pastor Elijah had said the night before. The curse is lifting, but the final word has not yet been spoken. Janet hadn't slept. She couldn't. The memory of her stepmother's collapse, the way her body contorted and gave up the ghost in Pastor Elijah's hands, it played over and over in her mind like a haunting lullaby. She was the witch, Obi had whispered. Yes, Janet had replied. But what if Zipporah was never meant to return? By mid-morning, the house was full of strangers, medical experts, journalists, 2 government officials from the Ministry of Health. Obi kept them at bay, insisting this was not a scientific matter. This is spiritual. This is family, he said over and over, as he guarded the bedroom door. Inside, Janet hummed softly to the half-child, half-goat curled in her arms. Just one more day, my love. The prophet said 7 days. You've made it through 6. Then something happened. Zipporah opened her eyes. Janet froze. The eyes were no longer goat eyes. They were soft, round, brown, like Obi's. Zipporah blinked and reached up, not with hooves, but fingers. Tiny, wobbly fingers. She touched Janet's face, and for the first time smiled. Janet screamed, not from fear, but from joy. Obi rushed in. He stopped short. He dropped to his knees. Before him was no longer a goat. Not entirely. A child, barely a year old in appearance, sat on Janet's lap, naked, pale, weak, but human. Zipporah, Obi whispered. The child turned to him and giggled, her voice faint but real. Mama. Janet burst into tears. She spoke again. Pastor Elijah entered quietly. He looked at the child and nodded. The transformation is complete, he said softly. But it's only the 6th day, Obi whispered. Elijah's brow furrowed. Yes, which means something else is yet to be revealed. The family spent the day locked inside, protecting Zipporah from cameras and questions. Mama Adaize, now regaining her strength, held the child and wept openly. I didn't believe in her. I cursed her. But she is flesh. She is mine. Janet said nothing. She watched Zipporah like a woman guarding treasure. But that night, after everyone had fallen asleep, Janet woke suddenly. Zipporah was gone. She sat up with a jolt. Zipporah? She heard soft giggles from the backyard. Janet ran out barefoot, her wrapper flapping behind her. And there, beneath the mango tree, stood Zikora, alone, smiling. But something was wrong. She stood too still, and beside her was a second shadow, tall, dark, watching. Janet froze. Who? Who is that? The figure stepped back into the dark. Zikora turned slowly, her smile fading. And then, she spoke again. But her voice was not that of a child. It was deeper, older, echoing. Mama, she's not the only one who cursed me. Janet gasped. The wind rose suddenly, and in the distance a crow cawed, once then vanished into the sky. Janet scooped Zikora into her arms and ran. But deep inside, something twisted in her stomach. The prophecy had ended. The child had returned. But the curse may not have been over. To be continued.